Gacrux is the third brightest star in the southern constellation of Crux, the Southern Cross. With an apparent visual magnitude of plus 1.63, it's the 26th brightest star in the night sky. Hi everyone, Vega here, and in today's video, we return to our Brightest Stars series to take a look at just another one of those stars, Gacrux or Gamma Crucis. So let's get to it. In life, it's often difficult to stand out in any particular way. It seems there's always someone faster, taller, more intelligent, stupider, more attractive, richer or poorer. Sometimes we might even say that we're third, fourth, fifth or maybe sixth choice, and sometimes even in a race of six. When this happens, we might call ourselves an also-ran. In many ways, stars are the same, and for a long time now I've put off making a video about a star that, well, just doesn't seem to excel in any particular category. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the star of Gamma Crucis or Gacrux. So where is Gacrux? Well, if we draw a line between the two pointers, Alpha Centauri through Beta Centauri, the path leads more or less to the star. Located at a distance of 88.6 light years from the Sun, it doesn't take a genius to work out that Gacrux's name is actually just an abbreviation of its biodesignation, Gamma Crucis. Gacrux is a single star and has the system's stellar classification of M3.53. This means it's pretty much bang in the middle of the M class, and not particularly warm nor cold red star. Gacrux has evolved off the main sequence to become a red giant, but is most likely on the usual red giant branch, rather than the brighter and perhaps more interesting asymptotic giant branch. Gacrux is only 50% more massive than the Sun, but it does contain 73 times the Sun's radius and radiates roughly 830 times the luminosity of our Sun, meaning that in fairness, it does at least outshine Arcturus, 170 luminosities, or Aldebaran, 439. An effective temperature of 3689 Kelvin means the colour of Gacrux is a prominent reddish orange, well in keeping with its spectral classification as we see in this diagram. It's redder than Aldebaran or Arcturus, but it's not as red as Betelgeuse. Likewise, Gacrux is not a particularly out of the ordinary semi-regular variable, although it does slightly unusually have multiple periods. Yes, it seems Gacrux, smaller and less red than Betelgeuse, dimmer relative to our solar system and less massive than Sirius, it's just not that distinctive. Not the brightest star in the Southern Cross, nor even the only star in that constellation to have what is basically an abbreviation for a name. That's because Alpha Crucis or Acrux is probably better known and more studied star. Even tiny Proxima Centauri, much less massive and significantly dimmer than Gacrux, is more famous because it's the closest star to our solar system. Gacrux doesn't, as far as we know, have a stellar companion, and at 26th brightest star it still doesn't quite make the top 25. Indeed, I've even put off making this video for a long time, as I just couldn't think of anything especially interesting about the star to give a video an angle. But maybe exactly that's why the star is so special. It's precisely because Gacrux is at the point where stars go from having individuality, personality, interest and definition, to beginning to fade into obscurity, nameless and generic numbers. Maybe that's why Gacrux is so important. In many ways, rather than an also-ran, perhaps it would have been fairer to call it the gateway star. And in all honesty, I'm not sure I've actually been fair to our old friend of Gacrux. As a prominent member of the Crux constellation, Gacrux may not be its brightest star, but it certainly helps form the iconic Southern Cross, an important navigational tool for Southern Hemisphere sailors. In Chinese astronomy, Gamma Crucis was known as Shizijiayi, which translates to something like the first star of the cross. And believe it or not, Gacrux is actually the nearest M-type red giant to the Sun. Arcturus, for example, is a K-type giant, as is Aldebaran. Gacrux's atmosphere is enriched with barium, which is usually explained by the transfer of material from a much more evolved companion. But as we've already mentioned, Gacrux does not have a companion, which does leave quite a mystery, and typically this companion would subsequently become a white dwarf. But as I say, no such companion has been detected. Although Gacrux might be less photogenic than perhaps the beautiful system of Acrux through a telescope, its red hue does become very striking, and observers can see the contrast between Gacrux and the other stars in the Southern Cross. In today's final graphic, to show this incredible star some much needed love, we replace Gacrux first with the star of Sirius, which is currently the brightest star in our night sky. Gacrux at magnitude plus 1.6 suddenly dims substantially, almost completely from naked eye view, and has an apparent magnitude as Sirius of plus 3.4, some 33 times dimmer than the red star it replaced. The Southern Cross no longer holds its importance in our sky. Now we replace Gacrux with our Sun, and now only on a very, very clear night would we be able to see the star, and an apparent magnitude of almost 5. The Sun is some 830 times dimmer. Gacrux is a typical red giant star lying in the constellation of Crux in the southern hemisphere. Not the reddest, nor the brightest, not the alpha star or even in the top 25 brightest stars in our night sky. Gacrux, whose name is a simple abbreviation, is in many ways an also-ran star. But then again, this is in some ways what makes it interesting. The first gateway to where stars begin to lose personality and fade away into ubiquity. Gacrux shines brightly in its home in the Southern Cross, and if it were replaced by stars that are much brighter in Earth's skies, like Sirius and the Sun, one of the most famous constellations of all would lose its style, and indeed, its warm red glow. Thanks for watching, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you would like to support the channel further, you could consider joining the channel, or alternatively buy me a coffee, and I'll link this in the description. Take really good care of yourselves and look after your friends and family well, and I'll see you on the next one.